Well, good morning. Happy Thursday to you. It's good to be with you on this beautiful day. 70 degrees, not too windy. A beautiful day in Vail. Had a friend of mine say that he drove through the real Vail, which is Colorado, and I had to remind him that the real Vail is actually Vail, Arizona, because we were founded long before the Vail, Colorado was. So just had to remind him of that, because some people think that Vail, Colorado is better than Vail, Arizona, and it's not. Vail, Arizona is better. Anyway, so it's good to be with you. Today is Thursday, October 1st. Can you believe we're in October already? Oh my goodness. How many days to Christmas? October, November, December, right? About 60, 75 days to Christmas, something like that. Hope you got all your Christmas shopping done. It's time to do it. And what are we doing for Christmas this year? That is the big question. I know we're going to celebrate it, but how we're going to celebrate is remaining to be seen, although we're having a lot of discussions. All right, so also birthdays today. There are no birthdays today that I know of. Could be some. Someone told me, well, yeah, we may have had a birthday yesterday that I didn't know about, but I'll have to verify that before I find out. A little dusty this morning. All right, so couple things. First of all, we are gonna. So I got a message from the Rincon Valley Fire Department that there is a nationwide movement to honor fallen firefighters, and I don't know why, but for some reason, our law enforcement personnel and our firefighters, my heart goes out to them, the military, people who, put themselves out there to protect the public. They always have a soft spot in my heart. And so we've decided to join into that movement. So if you are free on Sunday night, October 4th. So this is only, this is Thursday. So Friday night, Saturday night, and 3 nights at 7 o'clock, you can join me at Christ Lutheran Vail Church. We are going to put red lights up everywhere. It's called Light the Night, and you put red lights up. And then we're going to have a little tribute to the fallen firefighters. As far as I know, I've been told that there have been 4 firefighters in Arizona that have died in the line of duty. And, it's something we don't really think about. But every year, firefighters will die in the line of duty. And it's just something, you hear it peripherally, but unless you are a fire person or unless you're connected with the fire department, usually it just shows up on the news and then the next day you forget about it. Well, it so happens that my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, was a firefighter for a number of years, 10, 15 years in Phoenix at a station. And and she would tell me some of the stories of what she would have to go through. The hardest thing, obviously giving up your life is a hard thing too, but for her, the hardest thing was responding to drownings in Phoenix. Happens all the time. And then she's no longer a firefighter. When she started having children, she kind of got out of the business, but she was an amazing firefighter. And so this is something we're going to do. And if you want to join us, it's going to be on this Sunday night, beginning at 7 o'clock. The Vail Tribute is Sunday, October 4th, 7 o'clock, Christ Lutheran Vail Church, 14600 East Colossal Cave Road. You don't even have to get out of your car. You can just pull up into the parking lot. I'll have a loudspeaker with the tribute. We're gonna light the lights as we say each name, and it's going to be a really moving and honor-filled tribute. So it should be good. It should be really, really good. And I hope you can join us. We're going to be advertising it on Facebook, on our Instagram. We'll advertise it on church on Sunday. And like I said, you could just pull up into the parking lot It'll all be on a loudspeaker, so you have to get out of your car. So if you want to social distance, if you stay in your car, that's just fine. We're also going to, I think we'll live stream it if we can. I'm going to see if we can try to figure out a way to live stream it. But if you are available to come out, that would be great too. But I think we are going to try to live stream it. So that is coming up this Sunday, October 7th. And then also I mentioned yesterday about the Hard Things Conference that just finished on Tuesday night. And there's another one coming up, and it's called the Reclaiming Hope Conference. And this one is Robin Blumenthal. Reclaiming Hope, a virtual trauma-informed conference for those who nurture connection, healing, and resilience in a hurting world. Whether you're an educator or religious leader, counselor or coach, parent or caregiver, all around us, people are hurting. It's going to be November 6th, 2020. Now, I was looking at the October calendar. So November 6th is actually on a Friday, 2020, from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's a virtual event, but it's all day on a Friday on November 6th. The cost is $39. If you register in the next week or so, it's $50 if you register after that. The conference includes Bruce Perry, PhD, author of The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, keynote speaker Bruce Perry, Rick Griffin, and then there's some other stuff, Hillary Griegel, you all know her. So anyway, this looks like a really, really great day. So I highly encourage you to take a look at this. Oh my goodness, look at all those conferences. So you go to fortucson.com/reclaiming hope, fortucson.com/reclaiming hope, if you want to be a part of that. And I think I can actually put that in the thing. All right, so that is coming up next month, and it looks like you can spread the word about that if you'd like to, and tell people about it, and it would be really, really, really awesome. So lots of stuff going on, even though kind of we're still under lockdown. There's still a lot of stuff that we can do. Isn't it amazing what you can do with new technology, even in the midst of a lockdown? So I don't know why it's so dusty, but I have a glass of water here. Wash down the windpipes, and that's good. Hey, do you collect these little caps that you take off of a can? So all of you know that my drug of choice is Diet Dr. Pepper, and so I go through a couple cans a day. So if you rip off the top, apparently we collect these for Ronald McDonald's house. And you say, what does this do? Well, I know it doesn't seem like much, but what they've found out is that if they collect cans, they're messy. They get food in them and stuff like that. Plus, they've got a little lining in the side of there to protect the food. And so this is a great thing to collect if you can. But even this apparently is about the same amount of weight of aluminum. And so they collect all of these, thousands and thousands. I think it's 300 of these as a pound. Which is worth like $10 or something like that. So I mean, I had to look it up myself because I was like, this can't possibly be worth anything. But when you take a whole group of people and they all collect these and they put them in baggies and they bring them and they get tens of millions of these, they can sell them for hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, something like that. And they put that to good use at the Ronald McDonald House. Ronald McDonald House is a place that if you're going through cancer treatment and your family needs a place to stay while you're going through the treatment, they build these places called Ronald McDonald Houses, which are these nice accommodations for people to live in while others and their family are going through cancer treatment. It's an awesome, awesome thing. And I'm so grateful that there are those things, because that is a very, very difficult time in life. And to be able to be, surrounded by friends and family and warmth and love, especially if you're in a lot of times people have to go to a different city that they're not even familiar with. And so this is very, very helpful. And so our school, Creation School, collects these. And then we give them to Ronald McDonald's house. All right. That is all I have for announcements. We are going to probably finish Jacob this week, the book of Genesis. And I must say it has been a blessing. It's been huge. And I'm so grateful that you stuck around through 89 episodes for the book of Genesis. And we'll probably go through 90 to get through the book of Genesis. And that is a long time to go. You spent 90 hours plus with me talking about all sorts of things. And so God bless you. Never thought anybody would ever spend that kind of time listening to me, but it's not me that you're listening to. You're listening to God's word, and God's word is always worth listening to. All right. So we are going to go ahead and just start at Genesis chapter 49. We're going to begin at verse 29. And this is the death of Jacob. Then Jacob gave them these instructions. I'm about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham bought along with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave in it were bought from the Hittites. Well, now, before you just finish that, I just want to point out that you have to understand tribal dynamics back 5,000 years ago. You were not, the whole idea of individual is very much an American, Western, European concept that's only come around in the last 200-300 years. Prior to that time, your identity was as much wrapped up in your family and your tribe as it is in yourself. Now, this is a hard thing to wrap your brain around, but think about it. I know that we, I think, therefore I am, right? I mean, that was Descartes, right? I think, therefore I am. Prior to that, your identity was wrapped up incredibly strong in your family, in your country, in your tribe, in your community. And that's why when, let's say at the time of Reformation for Martin Luther, at the time of the Reformation in Martin Luther, the person who basically, the whole community had a faith. And it wasn't like the faith of one person or the faith of the other person. It was the faith of the whole community. Or if you're living at the time of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, it was the faith of the whole entire tribe. It was the faith of Pharaoh. It was the religion of Pharaoh. You didn't have an individual identity. Your identity was so much tied into the family that you grew up into. The community, the tribe, all of that was very, very much part of your identity. So the rules and the laws that you followed were very much tribal rules, and the way that they maintained people to follow the rules wasn't necessarily individually about going to heaven or hell based upon your individuality. It was so much more, these are the rules that our tribe follows, and you have to follow those rules. And if you don't, we're going to shame you, and maybe even worse than shaming you, we'll kick you out of the tribe. And the worst thing that could ever happen would be for you to be, thrown out of the tribe. Now, we see this periodically in like Amish communities or, strong communities like that, where it's still, everybody, whole entire community has an identity. The individual doesn't matter. It's the whole community itself. Typically, these communities are they're homogeneous, I guess is what I want to say. They all have the same religion. They all dress the same. They all act the same. They all have the same standard of living. And it's very, very clear as to what that standard of living is because everybody follows it. And if you don't follow that standard of living, the threat is always that you'll be kicked out of the tribe. You'll be kicked out of the community. And in Amish communities, that's called being shunning. And it's like, it's the worst thing that can possibly happen to you is to be shunned from your community because your whole identity isn't just an individual identity. Your whole identity is wrapped up into the identity of the community. Now, if you are a Western American consumer individual person in the United States, this is all foreign concept to you. You don't understand it. It's even hard to wrap your brain around it. I guess you could voyeur in and look into that if you find a community like an Amish community or some of these other communities like an African community, an African tribe. But it is very, 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 very hard to wrap your brain around. There's an incredible amount of comfort. There's an incredible amount of community and support. There's all sorts of stuff that is great when you live in a community like this. The downside, of course, is that you don't have individuality. Now, can you live a happy, well-adjusted, wonderful life when you are in a community like that? Absolutely. There's no question about it. As a matter of fact, sometimes I wonder if individualized American consumerism, individual me, is actually the healthiest way to live. I kind of sometimes wonder if it is the healthiest way to live. It's what we have, and I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of my individuality. I'm proud to be me. But I do know that there's other ways to look at yourself. Now, you're probably wondering, what does all this have to do? Because when Jacob is buried, he asks to be buried with his tribe. And so he is going to be buried in his tribe. His family, Joseph is going to take him. He's going to be buried with his ancestors. And there's something about, so when you're in a tribal community, your ancestors take on a different role. They are part of they don't really die. I mean, they do, because individually they're not there anymore, but their memories, who they were, how they influenced the tribe, the words that they said, all of that stuff kind of gets passed down from generation to generation. And as long as you pass down the memories of these tribal leaders or these great people in the tribe, that they still are with the tribe. I mean, they may not, you might be able to, get up and have dinner with them or get up and have breakfast with them, but their presence is very, very still present in the tribe. And it's hard for us to understand in American culture. But there is a reason why Jacob wants to be buried with his ancestors, because that's where the ancestors live. And he wants Joseph and all of those families to know that they're part of something bigger than themselves. I mean, and they don't even know self yet at this point. I mean, the tribe is so much a part of your identity that there's no question that Jacob is going to go and be buried with his ancestors. That's very, very important. And there are people that study these kind of dynamics in communities. And the great thing about a church is that we can transcend American individuality, which is not a bad thing at all. Don't get me wrong. I love being David Hook. I love my individuality. There's no going back. But the one thing that you lose is the community aspect and the community support and the community love and all that sort of thing. You can get it in family if you have a strong, healthy family. And you can also get it in your church family if you have a strong, healthy church family. And so that is one of the main functions of a congregation. So our congregation in Vail, it's not only just about teaching the Word of God, which we do, but it's about fellowship. It's about breaking bread together and being in community together. And it's about prayer, which is we pray for each other. Those are strong parts of being a local congregation. The other one that comes out of Acts, Acts 2:42, they joined together for the apostles' teaching, breaking the bread, fellowship, and prayer. So those four are mentioned in Act 2:42. Then you go to 45, is that they pooled their resources and they gave to people who had need. So the fifth thing that a congregation does is they come together and they look for needs in the community. It could be in the local church community, the congregational community, or it could be the community around them. And they pool their resources to love the world, to be the hands and feet in Jesus in the world. So those are the fivefold things that a congregation does. And that's the whole purpose of a congregation, is to leverage the resources of the people in the congregation to do those five things well. And the goal of the congregation, the goal of our congregation, is making loving disciples. Anyway, so Jacob goes and he is buried with his father, Abraham, his wife, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah. They're all buried in this cave. And now Jacob's going to be buried in the cave. And he knows he's going to be buried in the cave. So he knows. The other thing is that when your identity is the tribe, if the tribe goes on, then your identity goes on. Even after death, you're still a part of that tribe, because the people who've died before you are still part of that tribe. And you know that. So there's a little bit of comfort in death because of that. So the worst thing that you could ever do to a community like this would be to wipe out the community, to be a genocide, to completely take the tribe of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and destroy them so that nobody's left, because then the whole community dies, and that truly is the death of that community. So when Simeon and Reuben and Simeon went and killed the people that raped their sister Dinah and wiped out the whole entire tribe, that was a horrific thing. All right, we're going to continue reading. So this is verse 33. When Jacob had finished giving instructions to his sons, he drew his feet up into his bed. He breathed his last, and he was gathered to his people. So this truly is the death of Jacob. This one looks like it's a peaceful death. I have seen some people just breathe their last and do peaceful deaths. Some people are labored, and it's difficult, and they're in pain. But it appears that if he was in pain, it was a very short amount of time. I mean, that's the one thing that, up until we got pain relievers, right, in the last 150 years, the fear of death wasn't the fear of dying. The fear of death was the pain that was associated with death. But it looks like that isn't really discussed here. Jacob just finished giving his instructions. He still seems to be alert. And then he draws up into his feet, into his bed, and he breathes his last. I think that's the way we all want to go, right? We just want to draw up our feet, say goodbye to everybody, drop our feet, and breathe our last. And to be surrounded by our friends and our family. Well, mostly our family, right? When my mother died, this has been now 3 years, when she died, all the children were gathered around her for a week. So she was in her bedroom. It was a stay-at-home thing where we had a hospice bed, and we would go in and out and talk to her when she was lucid. And then when she wasn't lucid, we would go in the other room. We have a big living room at my dad's house, and we'd all sit around on the couch and just reminisce and talk about different stories. And I know she could hear us. And I think that's the way I want to go, right? I just want to be surrounded by people who love me. Don't know if that's even possible. We're so spread out as family anymore. But for whatever reason, my brothers and sisters are all still located in the Phoenix area. So we were all still able to gather around with my mother. All right. So that is the death of Jacob. I think we can just go on. The Genesis 50 then is the last of Genesis, and we'll just see how we get going here. Genesis chapter 50. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. And then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm his father Israel. So embalming actually is an Egyptian thing, right? Where you would, you've ever seen that, it's a mummy, they mummify, right? He basically is becoming a mummy. They pull out the important organs, they have these, they're little vessels, the ceramic or whatever vessels, and they would take the organs and put them in the vessel and wrap those up and set those aside, and they would mummify the body, and embalm it and stuff like that. And this is the stuff that you read about the pyramids and the movie The Mummy and all that sort of thing. And it is, Jacob, it ends up being he is Israel. And Israel has this whole entire history of how they bury the dead. But Jacob, Israel, was mummified. I mean, he was buried in an Egyptian burial ceremony because of Joseph. I just find that fascinating. So the physicians embalmed him. Verse 3, taking a full 40 days, for that was the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. So it wasn't just that Jacob died and Joseph and his brothers mourned. All of Egypt mourned. I mean, it's something you don't talk about, but Egypt, the whole entire country of Egypt under Pharaoh 5 millennia ago, all mourned the death of Jacob, who is Israel. It's just mind-blowing to me. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, "If I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me. Tell him, my father made me swear an oath and said, I am about to die. Bury me in the tomb I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up and bury my father, and I will return." And Pharaoh said, "Go up and bury your father as he made you swear to do." So this is interesting. If you are the prime minister of Pharaoh's court, then you don't need to actually talk to anybody. You just walk in and talk to Pharaoh. But remember, the whole 7 years of famine happened maybe, 15 or 20 years ago. And now Joseph has done what he was called to do. He's gotten them through the famine. And now Joseph and his brothers are living probably in the land of Goshen. Joseph maybe is no longer daily in Pharaoh's court. Maybe he got through it. He was appointed as prime minister to do this. But I get the sense from reading this that Joseph now has kind of removed himself from Pharaoh's court voluntarily, and lives out in the land of Goshen as a shepherd. He probably travels back to Pharaoh and sees him over time, but there's a period of time that has passed since Jacob died. And so I find it's interesting that when the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, if I found favor, speak to Pharaoh for me. Maybe it's a different Pharaoh. I don't know. But he has to go through the court system to get in front of Pharaoh. Of course, everybody knows who he is. And Pharaoh says, yes, go bury your father. There's no question about that. Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father as he made you swear to do. So Joseph went up to bury his father. All Pharaoh's officials accompanied him. The dignitaries of his court and all the dignitaries of Egypt, besides all the members of Joseph's household and his brothers and those belonging to his father's household. Only their children and their flocks and herds were left in Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went up with him. It was a very large company. So our latest dignitary to pass away is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she laid at state in the Capitol Rotunda, which I think she's the first female Jewish Supreme. I didn't follow this, but I know that I saw that she's in the Capitol Rotunda, or maybe she's in the Supreme Court area. I think it's the Capitol Rotunda. Anyway, and then people mourned, and so people stood in line for days. Lenin was buried in Red Square, and you can still go and see Lenin's tomb and Lenin. There are certain people that get big burials, and Pharaoh and all of his court and all of his dignitaries accompanied Jacob to go to Cana to bury him. I mean, that is just Talk about a fulfillment of a promise from God. Because if you'll go back, God told him, you will be great, and you will have so many descendants as the grains of sand, and you will be a great nation. Israel will be a great nation. Jacob becomes Israel. And there is no greater honor at this time than, if you'll remember, in the history of the world, the greatest empire that was 4 millennia ago, 4,000 years, was the Egyptian Empire. This is where the center of the intelligence and life and this dynasty was the lead dynasty in the world, and they all bowed down. They don't bow down, but they all honor Jacob as he goes to Canaan. I mean, just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. When I die, I know I won't have, that. And as long as I'm surrounded by my family, that's great. But we will be, each of us, accompanied by the hosts, the armies of God, who will accompany us at our death and be with us at our death. And the whole entire company of heaven will be there to celebrate our life and our death. And when we arise on the last day, they will be there to give us the great honor that we will have, because we're all children of the King. We are children of the King, of the Creator of the universe. So even this burial and the honor given to Jacob pales in comparison to the honor that you will have at your death in the heavens and at the last day when you meet God face to face. So I think we'll leave it there. My voice is, for some reason, there's dust in here or something. I'm not sure what it is. You didn't see it, but my wife brought me a little bottle of water because she heard that I was choking a little bit, and I was so grateful to her. I normally have a glass of water sitting here, but it's empty. I forgot to fill it out. So we'll leave it there. We're gonna pick up then in verse 10 tomorrow, and we get the last of that. So let's just close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the honor that you bestow upon us, because we are your children. Keep us ever safe in your care. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so that is it for me today, and I pray God's richest blessings to you. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow, and take care. Bye.